Greetings friends and welcome back to Recon by Fire. For today's battle, the Imperial Knights are running Noble Lance and are bringing 2 Knight Atrapos, 1 Armiger Helverin, 6 Warglaves, a Calidus Assassin, and a Navigator. Ultramarines are running Liberius Conclave and are led by Rabute Gilliman. They're running a Chief Liberian Tigurius, a Liberian with the Fusillade Enhancement, a Liberian in Phobos Armor, a Liberian in Terminator Armor, a squad of Intercessors, a squad of Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs, a 6-man squad of Blade Guard Vets, a Repulsor, a 10-man squad of Stern Guard Vets, 2 squads of Terminators, a squad of Infiltrators, and a Vindicator. For today's battle, deployment is Tipping Point, primary mission is Take and Hold, and mission rule is Raise Banners. Top of round 1 and the Ultramarines are going first. They select Biomancy Discipline, giving them a +2 to move. Secondaries for the turn are No Prisoners and Secure No Man's Land. They'll spend a command point on New Orders, pitching No Prisoners for Extend Battle Lines. Start of the movement phase, and the Blade Guard Vets made a whopping 14-inch advance to put them on the natural expansion. Vindicator will pop around the corner to get line of sight down the firing lane. Rabute will move up the midboard. Intercessors roll another big advance, getting them on the center objective, as well as potentially screening out the Atrapos from coming through the wall. Infiltrators and company will move forward just slightly to stage for next turn. And the Repulsor does a minor reposition. That's going to end the turn for the Ultramarines. They will primary oath the Black Warglaive and Rabute oath the Green Warglaive. They'll score 5 points for Extend Battle Lines and 5 points for securing No Man's Land. Calidus will bamf out as she does. Bottom of round 1, and the Imperial Knights will draw Marked for Death and Overwhelming Force as their secondaries. Marked for Death targets are 3 things that they can't target and kill, so we disregard, and that's going to be a CP. Bondsman abilities don't matter because there's no Titanic on the board, so we go right into movement, and the Boneglaive is going to contest the center objective. Warglaive goes after the natural expansion. Atrapos will follow up behind the Warglaive, doubling up on the objective. Warglaive pushes towards the center of the field. Helverin will reposition to get line of sight across the board. Oathed Warglaive will remain hidden. Atrapos will tow in to get line of sight down the midfield. Warglaive will reposition to screen out the deployment zone. Both the Green and the Bone Warglaive fire into the Stern Guard, but Invols come in clutch and they only take down 1. Atrapos in the center of the board fires into them, and the las cannon does some work, picking up 4 of them. The Atrapos in the building fires into them, leaving just 2 and the Librarian remaining. The Helverin is last on the list and fires everything into the remaining squad, and flat 3 damage does the trick, picking them up. That's going to end the turn for the Imperial Knights. They'll score 5 points for Overwhelming Force and hold on to Mark for Death until next turn. Players finally remember they had a mission rule, and the Imperial Knights will score 3 points for raising banners on 3 objectives, and the Ultramarines raised banners on 2 objectives for 2 points. The one thing we will remember is that if you're returning to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button, as it really helps us out. Top of round 2 for the Ultramarines, and they will draw Overwhelming Force and Sabotage as their secondaries for the turn. They control 2 objectives and will score 10 points on primary. Oath of Moments are the Boneglaive and the Green Warglaive. They will remain in the Biomancy discipline. Start of the movement phase, and the Infiltrators are going to push towards the center objective, remaining in cover, but leaving the Librarian out to throw some psychic grenades. Vindicator will also make a move towards the center objective. The Repulsor will back up to get line of sight down the center firing lane. Deathwing Knights and Librarian will arrive out of Deep Strike to perform the sabotage action behind cover. Start of the shooting phase, and the Ultramarines will spend a command point on Assail, throwing a psychic grenade at the Warglaive on the center, knocking it down to 9 wounds remaining. Librarian is then going to follow up with its psychic attack. In response, the Imperial Knights will spend a command point to rotate ion shields on the Armiger. Mind Bullets score a wound, bringing the Armiger down to 8 remaining. Vindicator will unload on the Armiger, bringing it down to just 4 wounds remaining. It is bracketed. It's charge o'clock, and unfortunately the Blade Guard Vets fail their charge into the Green Warglaive, and that is going to end the turn for the Ultramarines. They failed to score Overwhelming Force and will pitch it for a command point, and Sabotage is ongoing. Calidus Assassin will phase out. Bottom of round 2 and secondaries for the Imperial Knights are marked for death from last turn, and they draw no prisoners. They'll spend a command point on Insane Bravery on the bracketed Warglaive, guaranteeing that they control 3 points for 15 points total. Marked for death targets from last turn are Rabute, the Repulsor, and the Blade Guard vets. Ultramarines are going to use Sensory Assault on the Atrapos for free thanks to Guilliman, giving it a -2 to its movement and charges. The pin is relevant as the Atrapos no longer has the movement to get past the wall, thus leaving it pinned behind it. Wounded Warglaive goes its full movement to get eyes on the Repulsor. The Repulsor will spend a command point on Overwatch and manages to score 2 wounds on the Armiger but fails to take it down. Green Warglaive replaces the Bone Glaive on the center objective. Atrapos will tow on to the center building. Red Warglaive will sneak in between the walls onto the center objective. Warglaive will move out of cover and towards the center of the board. Calidus will be positioned to vec the center. Start of the shooting phase, and the Imperial Knights are going to spend a command point on Squire's Duty, targeting the Repulsor. Atrapos will open fire, targeting the exposed Librarian, and manages to pick up 2 infiltrators. The wounded Warglaive fires into the Repulsor, and thanks to Laylo the Tyrant rerolls and rolling boxcars on Melta damage, it absolutely vaporizes the Repulsor. The Atrapos and both Warglaives all target the Vindicator. Ultramarines will pop smoke on it for free thanks to Guilliman, but unfortunately it still succumbs to its wounds and does explode, triggering deadly demise. Blade Guard vets take 2 mortals. Guilliman suffers 1 mortal. Terminators suffer 1 mortal. Stern Guard take 2 mortals. Bone Glaive falls to just 1 wound remaining. And finally, the Green Warglaive falls to 9. And that's going to end the turn for the Imperial Knights, scoring 5 points for Marked for Death and 2 points for No Prisoners. Ultramarines will complete the Sabotage action, scoring them 3 points. Top of round 3, and the Ultramarines will draw Marked for Death and Containment as their secondaries for the turn. Marked for Death targets are the Atrapos and the 2 Armigers in the backfield. They control 2 objectives and will score 10 points on primary. Regular Oath will go on the Neon Warglaive, and the Guilliman Oath will go on the Red Warglaive. Librarian falls back behind the wall. Guilliman moves forward, ready to slice and dice a Warglaive. The Librarian and company will push towards the center objective. Terminators make a push towards the Imperial Knights' home objective. JPIs will arrive deep in enemy territory. Start of the shooting phase, and the Librarian will fire a Psychic Grenade into the Green Warglaive, leaving it at just 4 wounds remaining. The other Librarian will throw a regular old grenade at the Bone Warglaive, and that will prove enough to take it down. 1 mortal to the Librarian, 2 mortals to the Stern Guard, and the Green Warglaive shrugs off a mortal with a Feel No Pain. Marines fire into the Green Warglaive, failing to score a wound. Guilliman fires into the Green Warglaive, scoring 2 wounds. Stern Guard unload an absolutely preposterous amount of dev wounds on the Neon Warglaive, bringing it down to just 2 wounds remaining. It's charge o'clock, and Guilliman has to use his free strat on a reroll, but he does make the dual charge into both Warglaives. Terminators will make their 8-inch charge into the Helverin. Guilliman will fight first, splitting his attacks between the Green and Red Warglaive, but unfortunately does not trigger his own oath, causing the Green Warglaive to remain alive. But down goes the red one. Terminators swing into the Helverin and take it from full health down to just 4 wounds remaining. It will crack back, taking down the 1 Terminator at a single wound. Warglaive into Guilliman leaves him at 6 wounds remaining. That is going to end the turn for the Ultramarines. They'll score 6 points for Containment and hold on to Marked for Death, as the Helverin is obviously going to go down next turn. Bottom of round 2 for the Imperial Knights, they will draw Assassination and Recover Assets as their secondaries for the turn. Green Warglaive will succeed its leadership check, and so they control 3 objectives and will score 15 points on primary. Ultramarines use Sensory Assault on the Atrapos for free. Start of the movement phase, and the Warglaive will reposition to assist its Squire in arms. Neon Warglaive will back up out of combat and potentially go after the JPIs. Atrapos has just enough movement to get through the wall and get clear line of sight on the Librarian squad. It will fail its leadership check and is battle shocked. Calidus will reposition to include Guilliman in her Vectora. Atrapos will move in on Guilliman. Final Warglaive arrives from deep strike behind enemy lines to recover assets. Neon Warglaive into the JPIs and manages to pick up 1 of them. Atrapos fires everything into Guilliman and leaves him at 1 wound remaining. Atropos into the stern guard picks up one of them. Wounded Warglaive into the stern guard picks up another. Calidus into Gilliman, and he lives. Warglaive makes its charge into the Terminators and gets back on the point. Atropos makes it into Gilliman. Atropos will tank shock, taking the big man down, but he will return at the end of the phase. Second Atropos barely makes its charge into the stern guard. No interrupt thanks to the Vect, and the Atropos sweeps into the stern guard, picking up 4 of them. They fight back but fail to score a wound. Warglaive into the Terminators. They will activate Fiery Shield for a command point. It does matter as the Warglaive fails to score a wound, and it does succeed its hazard check. Terminators all unload on the wounded Helverin and proves to be enough to take it down. It will not explode, but that will score them marked for death. At the end of the phase, Gilliman will get back up with 5 wounds remaining. That is going to end the turn for the Imperial Knights. They'll score 5 points for assassination, and recover assets is ongoing. Ultramarines will score 5 points for taking down a marked for death target. Top of round 4 for the Ultramarines, they will draw Defend Stronghold and Engage on all fronts as their secondaries for the turn. They control 2 objectives and will score 10 points on primary. Big Oath on the Neon Warglaive and a Small Oath on the Atropos. Start of the movement phase, and the Terminators are going to fall back onto the point to reset fights first. Infiltrators will reinforce the point, but make sure the Librarian can Psychic Grenade the Warglaive. Blade Guard Vets and company will hold on to the point, but pop out to get line of sight to assist Gilliman. Start of the shooting phase, and the Librarian will chuck a Psychic Grenade at the green Warglaive, proving to be enough to take it down. The Librarian rolls a 6 and manages to recover the lost CP. Gilliman fires into the Calidus and fails to score a wound. Librarian uses Gilliman's free strat on grenades, hitting the Atropos for a single wound. Librarian then does its psychic attack, bringing it down to 20 wounds remaining. The JPIs shoot into the wounded Warglaive, failing to score a wound. Gilliman will make his charge into the Atropos. Knights will overwatch with the Calidus Assassin, scoring 2 wounds, and then heroically intervening with the Calidus, where Gilliman ended for another CP, but costing them a reroll to do it. JPIs charge the wounded Warglaive, and the Terminators make their charge back into the Warglaive. Impact Mortals from the JPIs take down the Neon Warglaive, and they manage to consolidate onto the objective. Calidus has fights first and will swing into Gilliman, leaving him at 1 wound remaining. Gilliman sends a fury of blows into the Atropos, and the 5-up Invul comes in clutch, taking 11 wounds, falling down to 9 remaining. Terminators and the Librarian will swing into the Warglaive on the home objective, leaving it at 9 wounds remaining. Time for ongoing combat, and the Atropos will swing into the Blade Guard Vets and rolls poorly, leaving 1 alive, meaning it's stuck in combat. They will fight back, scoring 3 wounds, bring it down to 22 remaining. Atropos manages to finally take down Gilliman. Warglaive will fight back, failing to score a single wound. That's going to end the turn for the Ultramarines. They'll score 4 points for Engage on all fronts, and Defend Stronghold is ongoing. Imperial Knights will score 3 points for Recover Assets. Bottom of round 4, and the Imperial Knights will draw Secure No Man's Land and Behind Enemy Lines as their secondaries for the turn. They control 2 objectives and will score 10 points on primary. After taking down Gilliman, they'll go to a 5-up Feel No Pain and generate an additional 3 command points. Start of the movement phase, and the Warglaive is going to attempt to interrupt the Defend Stronghold. Wounded Warglaive will fall back but remain on the objective to deny the Ultramarines primary. Calidus Assassin will move towards the JPIs but still staying on the center objective. Atropos will end up falling back onto the Ultramarines objective to guarantee the deny. Imperial Knights will spend 2 command points on Shoulder the Burden, targeting the center Atropos, and it will move towards the JPIs to deny them primary. Start of the shooting phase, and the Navigator will do its psychic attack on the Terminators, and thanks to the -2 versus infantry, they fail and are battle shocked and suffer 3 mortal wounds. Warglaive fires into the Librarian and company and picks up a model. Buffed up Atropos fires into the Terminators to keep the Warglaive alive and picks them up. Warglaive will make its long bomb charge into the Librarian squad and will tank shock, managing to pick up a model. Warglaive swings into the Infiltrators, managing to clean them up, but the Librarian will strike back, scoring 2 wounds on the Warglaive. Atropos into the JPIs kills 2, and 2 will strike back, scoring just a single wound. And that's going to end the turn for the Imperial Knights. They'll score 5 points for Secure No Man's Land, 4 points for Behind Enemy Lines, and deny the Ultramarines Defend Stronghold. Top of round 5, and the Ultramarines are going to spend a command point for new orders, ditching Defend Stronghold, and will draw Behind Enemy Lines and Assassination as their secondaries for the turn. They control 1 objective and will score 5 on primary. Start of the movement phase, and the Blade Guard vets are going after the Calidus. Remaining JPIs will fall back to score behind enemy lines. The Librarian uses a Psychic Grenade on the Calidus and takes her down for assassination. Regular Grenade on the Silver Warglaive deals 3 mortals. Onto charges, and the Lone Librarian makes its charge into the Warglaive. Both Librarians will swing into the Warglaive, bringing it down to 4 wounds remaining. On the Crackback, Ultramarines will spend a command point for -1 to hit, and the Warglaive brings a single Librarian to just 2 wounds remaining. That is going to end the turn for the Ultramarines. They will score 5 points for assassination and 3 points for behind enemy lines. Bottom of round 5 for the Imperial Knights, they will draw Containment and Storm Hostile Objective as their secondaries for the turn. Start of the movement phase, and the Atropos will advance, getting it all the way on the center objective, stealing it from the Ultramarines. Second Atropos will reposition to be able to perform Containment while still holding the objective. Wounded Warglaive will reposition to score the second Containment. That's going to end the turn and the game, scoring the Imperial Knights 6 points for Containment and 4 points for Storm Hostile Objective, making the final score with paint 83 to 92 in favor of the Imperial Knights. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, please do subscribe and drop a like, as it would mean a lot to us. But until next time, as always, happy gaming.